Hi, everyone. Financial Sharktress here. Welcome to Money Monday Live. Today, we are going to be talking about something that we all know about, but kind of put to the side or don't really associate it necessarily with our goals. And that is the concept of delayed gratification. So, if you don't know what that is, it is basically being able to wait for something better in the future. So let's say I give you two examples. One is I can give you $100 right now. Or if you wait 1 month, I can give you $1,000. What would you rather do? On a much simpler version, like you could do this with like children and like marshmallows and see how they can, what ability they have to delay their gratification. So let's say you tell your child, I could give you 1 marshmallow right now, but if you wait 1 hour, I can give you 2 marshmallows and see what happens. And if that child is able to wait the 2 hours or able to wait the 1 hour to get the 2 marshmallows, then they are already primed and ready for this concept of delayed gratification. And honestly, it's one of the more important concepts when dealing with money and finances, right? Because when we're practicing instant gratification, which is like getting that $100 right now or getting that 1 marshmallow right now, those are the situations that lead to debt, especially like credit card debt, right? Because those are the situations where you're standing somewhere, you want something right now, you don't have the money to put down for it, you don't have the money to pay for it. And so what you do is you put it on a credit card and say, I'm going to pay it later from money that I haven't made yet. Now, it goes even further than that, right? Because there's not only credit card debt, but when you have money sitting in your account, in your checking account, you could be practicing delayed gratification in putting that money away, saving that money, investing that money, and reaping a way larger return at some later point. Most people, what they're doing is practicing just instant gratification. And instant gratification is kind of like it's the avoidance of pain. It's the avoidance of discomfort. But we all know that you don't grow from places of comfort. You grow in places of discomfort. There's a story that obviously will tie into my ocean theme, but like it's a story I heard long ago about a lobster. I don't know if you have ever understood how a lobster grows, because a lobster is an animal with a very hard shell, right? So you wouldn't think that it would be able to grow over time. But what it does is it molts its shell, right? It leaves its shell. It like a snake molting. If you've ever seen like a snake getting rid of its skin and having new skin, growing into new skin, a lobster does something super similar. But how does the lobster know when it's ready to cast off the old shell, go and hide under a rock until its new shell, forms around it? It knows that because it gets uncomfortable. They grow and grow until they are uncomfortable in the shell that they are in. And then they molt. They take off that shell. They go and they know that even though they are uncomfortable and they have to like run and hide for a little bit while their new shell is hardening around them, they know that once they do that, they will be in a better place, right? They will be in a bigger shell that has room for them to exist. And it's just this concept of growing is uncomfortable. Growing doesn't come from your comfort zone. It only happens when you take yourself out of your comfort zone, when you are so uncomfortable, right? The biggest growth that will happen is when you're so uncomfortable that you cannot possibly have another day inside this way of being, right? So if the lobster was thinking like instant gratification, right, it would be like, let me take a painkiller so that I don't feel the discomfort of this shell tightening around me. But it doesn't do that. It chooses to let go of that shell, let go of that exoskeleton that it has, and have a new one around it. And then it's able to grow and able to get bigger and move on to the next phase of its life. Same kind of concept that we have with money, right? Instant gratification. Yeah, you could take the money that's sitting in your account, you could take that credit card bit, that credit card swipe, and buy something that makes you happy for a split second, that makes you avoid, especially with retail therapy, like you avoid thinking about what's actually going on. You avoid thinking about your goals. You avoid thinking about long-term gratification, and you just swipe or use the money that you have to buy things that make you feel better for the moment, right? It's that painkiller. But what if you could look at your goals first? What if you could ask yourself first, does this help me reach my goal? Does this hurt me reaching my goal? Is this a need or is this a want? Is this something that if I wait 24 hours, my favorite 24-hour rule, is this something that if I wait 24 hours, will I still feel the same way about it? And then then you'll know if that is really something that you want to buy, or is that money better spent on another form of delayed gratification? Meaning, is that money better put towards savings for my goals? Is that money better put towards investments, which will reap more over the years? Is that money better put towards paying down debt that I already have, right? Because paying down debt that you already have monthly, it's not going to feel, it might feel great, but it's not going to have, you're not going to get that same rush as if you were to buy an item, right? But you'll get that rush when your debt is paid off completely. So can you delay the gratification until later? And that is one of the kind of primary ways that you can better your financial situation, is if you move away from instant gratification and move towards delayed gratification. And this is a concept that you should teach everyone around you, teach your kids. You want to start thinking about the future. Thinking about the future, like, it's something that most people my age, most people in general, do not think about until it's too late. But the best time to start investing is today. It's not tomorrow. It's not when you get your tax return, which today is tax day. So if you haven't filed your taxes or filed an extension, do so immediately, because today is the day, right? But I've heard so many people like, I'll wait until I get my tax return to do this. I'll wait until I get my tax return to work on this goal, to invest, to start my Roth IRA. No, today is the day. Even if you start small, start practicing delayed gratification in small doses, and then it will allow you to open up for the bigger doses of it. It's honestly, this idea of delayed gratification is kind of one of the biggest ideas in financial health, financial wellness. It's this idea that you can, like, if you're watching this, chances are you're an adult. As adults, we can wait. We can wait for something better. We don't need things right now. For a child, that is a very hard concept to think about. But as adults, we know that our goals are more important. Our future is more important. Our retirement is more important. The freedom, the stability, that feeling that you're going to get when you don't have to worry, that is more important. And that is what you need to think about before you swipe the credit card, before you spend the money that's in your checking account right now. I want you to think about, what are my goals? What does my future look like? How do I want to feel in my future? Do I want to feel secure, or do I want to feel the same way I'm feeling today? Because if you're feeling today secure and good and stable, amazing, then you have been practicing this already, right? Or you happen to have been born into a really wealthy family and you're super lucky. Unfortunately, not all of us have had that same opportunity, but we can create that for ourselves. We can create that for our children. We can create that emotional relationship with our money, that healthy emotional relationship, by practicing delayed gratification, by understanding what our goals are, by putting plans in place to reach our goals. And as always, one of my favorite things is plotting out my goals and celebrating on the way there, right? So you can delay major gratification, but in order to keep that going, in order to make that possible, you need to reward yourself along the way. It doesn't have to be big rewards. It can be small rewards. It can be something that doesn't cost money. There are plenty of things that you can do. Spring is here. There are things that you can do outside, pleasurable things that don't involve you spending a lot of money, and you can give yourself those as rewards for reaching different steps along the way towards your goals. But make sure that with the big rewards, you are practicing delayed gratification. You are making sure that your actions today don't harm your future tomorrow. And that is my message for today's Money Monday. Please, I would like you to share with me, if you're watching today, if you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching it on YouTube, on Instagram, on my Facebook, in my Facebook group, Righteous Revenue, on my Facebook page, Financial Sharktress Galit Sadiq. On Instagram, it's financial_sharktress. YouTube, it is Financial Sharktress. If you're watching that in any of those places, let me know. Let me know what are some of the ways that you have practiced delayed gratification. I just want one scenario. You don't have to tell me a whole bunch, but just one. I want you to share a way that you've practiced delayed gratification. For me, there have been times throughout my life, right? I've been practicing delayed gratification, since honestly, since I was 14. I'll tell you a story about my first job and what I bought with it. So one of the first things that I did, I started working at 14 full time. And the reason that I started working was to be able to afford the things that I wanted and help out in the household, um, by not being a burden, right? By not asking for things. We were not well off. And my mother, if you know a little bit about my story, we had just left a domestic violence shelter, and we were really, I was in a school with very wealthy individuals. We had gotten a scholarship to the school, me and my little sister. And there were a lot of things that I felt set me apart from the girls that I went to school with, right? I did not have the things that they had. I could not have the things that they had. And I did not want my mother to feel pressured into getting me those things. So I wanted to make sure that I could get them for myself. I started working, and I will tell you, one of the first things I bought, and it took me a couple of months to save up, was I bought myself a biker jacket, because back then, like, look at me, I'm a little bit punk and I'm a little bit rock and roll. And, one of my sisters had a motorcycle at the time, and I like thought it was super cool. That's me, my 14-year-old self. And I wanted a biker jacket, and I did not want to burden my mother with that. And so I saved up for a biker jacket. I saved up for my first cell phone, and I used to pay my own phone bill. I got my first phone, paid for it, and got my first phone bill, and paid for my phone bill every month. And then the next big thing, and it took me years. It took me until I was 17. I literally came home and I saved every additional dollar that I had. And I did not know much about money back then, right? Because I came from, an atmosphere where money was not taught. I did not have very good role models. My father was financially abusive towards us. I did not know about money as much as I should have. And so I had a cushion. I had a cushion inside my bedroom that I made a hole in. I made a hole in the cover, and I stuffed money into it every single time I got paid. And I kept doing that for years, every extra dollar. And when I turned 17 and I got my driver's license, the first thing that I did is I went out and bought my first car cash, right? It was not a big like, I was 17. My first car was something like less than $3,000, but I bought it with cash, and I was able to have money for all of the first repair expenses as well. And it was because I spent those years of delayed gratification knowing that that was what I wanted. That was important to me because I wanted to be independent. I'll tell you a little bit why the car was so important to me. Back then, so after I left when I was 14, I was in a religious school. It for me there. Maybe I'll tell you the story some other day. But suffice it to say, it was not the place for me, and I wanted to go to public school. Now, I did not want to go to the public school that I was zoned for, because in the public school that I was zoned for, as a white girl, you had two options. You ended up in a gang, dead or pregnant. Or so that's three options, sorry. Gang, dead, or pregnant. And I wanted none of those. It was a very bad high school, the one that I was zoned for. And I did not want to add that extra element to my life. It was already traumatic enough. I did not want to deal with any additional trauma. I had been through so much in my high school career, and like from spinal injury, and I mean, being just not fitting in, not understanding or not believing that religion made you a good person. I did not fit into the super religious high schools that I was put in, amongst many other things, right? I was super independent. I wanted to go, and I was also like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, I felt I was really smart, and I was really smart. And the school that I was in, the religious schools that I was in, were not big on secular activities. Like, I was in a math grade that was 2 grades above my actual grade in school, because my actual grade was like learning things that I already knew, and it just didn't make sense for me to sit with them, right? So like, that was not the place where I wanted to be. I wanted a career. I did not want to be groomed to be a housewife. And that's what I felt like was happening to me. So I tested into a program called the Gifted and Talented program at Benjamin N. Cardozo High School. Now, in order for me to get there, it was 2 city buses that took me an hour and a half to 2 hours in the morning and at night. So, or in the afternoon, actually. So I literally would be waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning in order to catch like the express bus, because then it was only like an hour and a half. And I had to be in school, super early. And on the other hand, on the days that my mother was awesome, and there were days as any high schooler that I couldn't wake up, and she was amazing, and she would drive me to school on those days when she could. Now, when you drove, it was like a 40-minute drive, and I knew that I wanted to have that extra sleeping time in the mornings. I wanted to be able to have that extra time to myself in the afternoons when I came back. I wanted to have that car so that I could drive myself back and forth to school. And so that was why the car was so important for me. And that was my goal. And I delayed my gratification. I did not spend any money beyond that jacket and my cell phone bill for years until I put enough away to buy that car in cash. Okay, I'm going to look over at the comments. I have one comment. Okay, so there's someone who practiced delayed gratification while plotting my return. So the return to living in Europe after a 6-year absence. It was a wild ride in between with lots of movement, yet I always keep my mind, eyes, and heart on this goal. Yes, and I think I know who this is. So I'm doing this on StreamYard, and so I can't necessarily always see the comments. So I'm just going to take a second and check and make sure that I know who this is. Yes. Let's see. I believe that this is a Fua. Let me know if that's you, because I'm like looking and I can't really see if it is on my Facebook. But yes, that is an amazing story, and I love that you were able to return to Europe after a 6-year absence. That is another. Oh, that reminds me of like another time that I practiced this like form of. Yes, it is a Fua. Yay. It's like, I think this is you. Another time that I'm reminded of like a goal like this, where I practice delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. I continued working full time when I was in college. So I did my first year of college. I had this deal with my mother. If I got into, and I went to Queens College, if I got into Queens College, their honors program, then I had to go to college. If I did not get into the honors program, then I was allowed to go traveling the world for a year before college. I got in to the honors program. So I did my first year of honors at Queens College. And then I decided I'm not ready for this. This is not, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know yet who I want to be, where I want this college experience to go. I want to travel first. And so I actually left college after my first year. I took a leave of absence and I saved up for a year, for almost a year and a half. And then I booked myself a one-way ticket to South America. I spent 6 months there in South America, and that would not have been possible, that saving. If I had been spending that whole time, it would not have been possible for me to take that trip. And that trip was what I needed to come back and refocus on what I wanted to do and become the Sharktress, right? That led me down this path. It gave me that knowledge deep inside that wherever you put me in the world, I will be fine. I will figure it out. I will survive. And I could not have done that without delayed gratification, without knowing that that was my goal and saving towards that goal and putting myself out there. So if you're watching this, I want to hear more stories. And as we continue, and as my Mondays continue, and as my podcast on Galit Speaks continues, please tune in for that. It happens every Wednesday. It is on YouTube. It is on Facebook, Galit Speaks. On YouTube, Galit Speaks. And it is also on Anchor the following day. So it'll be Thursdays on Anchor. You will learn more about me, more about my story, more about what makes me tick. But I love hearing your stories. I love being able to relate to the person behind the screen, right? It's hard sometimes when I'm just talking and I love when there's engagement and when there's comments, because I know you're listening, and it makes me feel like I'm accomplishing my purpose in the world, right? My purpose is to share, to educate, to give of myself, to change the world by speaking for those who don't have a voice. And I want you being here allows me to do that. I want you to share with me so that I can speak for you, so that I can use the platform to make sure that your values and the things that you care about are spoken about. So please subscribe to my channels. Please tune in. Please share your stories, and I will speak to you again soon. Have an amazing Money Monday. Practice instant gratification. Teach it to your children. Teach it to those around you. Spread financial health. Spread financial knowledge. And have an amazing night.